Welcome, everybody, to episode 3 of Liberty Ballers Weekly. I am Drew Peltzman, and I am joined by Liberty Ballers staff writer Harrison Grimm. Welcome, Harrison. How have you been since the last time we have talked, which was the Sixers draft?
Yeah, it's been a minute, dude. I appreciate you having me on. Talk Sixers. There's always something to talk about with this team. Certainly some good, certainly some bad, which we're gonna get into. But I'm hyped to dive into it. And once again, thanks for having me on.
Of course, man, of course. And I think it's pretty, we had some news today, but I think it's pretty clear where we should start. The Sixers through 11 games are negative 104 in the third quarter. They
It's impressive.
currently yeah, they currently rank 4th in the NBA offensive rating in the first quarter. They rank 1st in the second quarter, 1st in the fourth quarter, but 30th in the third quarter. It is very baffling, halftime adjustments, if there's any. What do you think is going on here?
Yeah, so it's really difficult to put kind of like a pulse on what exactly is the main issue. Even like if you can just point to one main issue, which the answer is probably a combination of things. Um, Pure speculation, but it seems like they come out of halftime like almost unfocused. And I'm not saying Nick Nurse isn't doing his job. I'm not saying the players aren't doing their job, but that's just what it looks like. They'll come out of halftime. They don't really run any sets. It's a lot of maxi hero ball. It's a lot of just guys standing around. And last game, I believe it was against the Celtics. I remember the offense started going cold, and they just started chucking up some threes. Like I know Kelly Oubre attempted a three, missed one. Not going to read too much into that. He's obviously been pretty good stepping up where he can. But you get like head scratching stuff, like Andre Drummond in the three point shooting experiment that everyone at this point wants to end, even though he's actually shooting them at an okay clip. But when the offense is going cold, you got to read the room. You can get better shots than that. That's the shots that the Celtics or other teams want the Sixers to take. So they're just bailing them out, and it's difficult. It's almost uh, like we saw this trend kind of develop early on, and we assumed it would get better. And it's almost like the Sixers play like they're expecting it. And then, as you brought up the other three quarters, they've actually been one of the better teams in all three of those quarters. The main reason these games are close is because of that third quarter. So on one hand, it's great. The Sixers have one of the best like net rating in the fourth quarter, but on the other, you're setting yourself up for failure. You're gonna lose games. They already have lost games because of that third quarter. So whether it's a lack of focus, whether it's just bad habits that they're latching onto, whatever it might be, they simply have to get better. And if they do, then they won't necessarily have to turn on the Jets, turn on the gas for that fourth quarter, and have so many of these narrow finishes.
Yeah, and I feel like, especially against the Celtics, you saw that the Celtics, I think, also made it a point of emphasis to attack in the third quarter, and that paired with the Sixers kind of playing on their heels and not kind of being warmed up or whatever they're doing or their routine is at halftime, even to put it that detailed, is like it's obviously not working. And you're 11 games in now where it's like this is becoming a pattern and you start to and you see those numbers by quarter, the net ratings, you gotta imagine what would this be like and look like if, they weren't 30th in the third quarter, or maybe even if they were like 15th in the third quarter. I mean, how the strategy of this new look offense, I think to your point, like why do you think we're not seeing it in the third quarter?
It's tough to say. Maybe it's like a break in the play because basketball is a rhythm sport, and there's no better example of that than Joel Embiid, who in previous years gets off to a slow start in the first few games, and then he eventually found his rhythm and became the dominant player we all know him to be. So it could be as simple as that, as there's a long-ish 15, 20 minutes break in play, and they're unable to just reestablish that rhythm. Um, it also could just be like a tired type of thing. Like obviously these guys, Maxi and VJ in particular, have been playing a large amount of minutes to start the year. Now we're starting to see that come down a little bit. I believe Maxi logged 33 minutes in that game. Also, logged significantly less in the game before that, so that's good to see. It also could have to do with that because maybe these guys play 2 quarters and they're feeling great, but it's hard to just get back into rhythm, get back into the flow that is an NBA game speed, which is extremely fast, especially without Joel Embiid. You're seeing how fast this team is playing. It's a faster pace than what we've seen in the past. So uh, it's difficult to pinpoint one exact thing, but the answer probably lies with several of these things I'm bringing up: rhythm, coaching, bad habits, tired legs, whatever that might be. It's probably a combination of all that.
Yeah, and I feel like it can't really go on much longer, right? Like, this is
You think?
you'd have to imagine this has to end at some point, and, like, even
Hmm.
if it means the other quarters kind of balancing out law of average type stuff, like, I think it is a little bit over our heads to think that they're gonna be the top 5 in every quarter, and be this sort of powerhouse throughout the season, although the start from Tyrese Maxey might elude us to believe that, but when you look at the news that we saw today of Jared McCain going down to Delaware. He was assigned to the Delaware Bluecoats. Obviously, his first couple games up in back from his thumb injury hasn't really looked too hot. Obviously, looks like he is trying to find his rhythm again. What do you make of this move, and are you worried at all about how McCain has looked so far this season?
Yeah, I'm not to the point where I'm worried. That's not to discount the fact that he's looked very rough. That might even be an understatement. He's 0 of 9, I believe, through 3 games from the field. Hasn't hit a shot yet. Obviously, looks quite a bit different than the guy that we saw last year, who was arguably the best player on the court for most of the time that he was on the court. It's tough because he's been out of games for, I believe it was 11 months, before he returned in that Chicago game, and that's a lot of rust to knock off, especially when you don't have a training camp, especially when you're coming into season. I know it's still pretty early, but the Sixers have been in season now for 2 going on 3 weeks with guys starting to really establish themselves. You're seeing that with, Quentin Grimes, especially in that six-man role, and it's tough to find your place and do the stuff that you do well. And that's not even mentioning the big brace he's wearing, which is kind of eyebrow raising. Maybe it's not, maybe it is. That Jared has spoken about how different it is for him. He essentially called it like a dead leg or a heavier leg. And that's just a lot of factors going against Jared McCain. And you've seen that. You've seen him not quite be able to make that level of separation that we saw in year one. Obviously, the shots aren't hitting either. So the Sixers, I felt like their approach when it came to him was kind of head scratching. The past 2 or so games, they've played him in the second quarter, anywhere from like 6 to 10 minutes. Obviously, it hasn't looked good, so we haven't seen him again. Not sure if that's a minute restriction. Not sure if that's just the coaching staff being like, we don't like what we're seeing. We're going to go a different route. Maybe it's a little bit of both. Uh, but what we do know is it's not working. Um, he just looks rough, and it doesn't help Jared where you're trying to find your rhythm in a game. You're trying to find the flow, and you have such a limited amount of time to do it. And then, these players are human at the end of the day. Knowing that you're potentially going to get yanked if you don't produce in that limited time, like there's just a lot of things going against you. So I haven't been a fan of how they've been using him. So when I did see they're sending him down to Delaware, I definitely agree with the decision. And there's some people where there's a stigma. It's like, oh, he's getting sent down to the G League. He must not be that good, or like the G League is almost frowned upon in a way. And I really would push back on that. I think this is exactly what he needs. He's going to go down to Delaware. They already said he's still going to be on a minute restriction. We'll see what that looks like, kind of unfiltered, if you will. My guess is it's somewhere between 20, 25 minutes tops. But it's a great place for Jared to go. He's gonna have the ball in his hands a lot. They also have other guards down there who have been doing some good stuff. Two-way player Hunter Salas is down there right now. Kennedy Chandler has been one of the better blue coats down there, and he's more of a traditional point guard. So you got guys that can kind of help ease him into the off-ball stuff that we know he's so capable of doing, while also putting the ball in his hands, getting him some shots, getting him some reps. And Nick Nurse said it earlier in his media availability, where this guy just needs to go up and down the court. He's got to build up his endurance. He's got to get used to that brace that he's going to be wearing in the short term. So across the board, I think this is a much better strategy to getting McCain back to where we saw him last year.
Yeah, and I think that's all very well said. At one point I wanna make with the brace that I'm wondering if you saw too. I mean, it looks massive on Jared
It looks
McKean's
like
leg.
Embiid's brace from last year. Yeah,
No, yeah, but I'm saying it doesn't look nearly as big on Embiid as it does on Jared like, it kinda makes
that's
you
true.
wonder how big Joel Embiid is. But anyways,
Hmm.
um, getting up and down the court and getting used to that brace, I think, is probably the best thing to do, and you're not getting those minutes, like you said, on the Sixers roster right now with, the guards that are just playing well, and obviously, he looks like he can't really trust it with the brace on right now, which is understandable, and I think last game, he was really forcing just getting that first bucket in, which can kinda show you it's a little bit in his head. For as great as he is work ethic-wise and mentality, I do think that can, if you miss a few shots, you can I think it's only natural for it to get in your head. So yeah, he will be down in Delaware for the next 2 games. They're playing the Greensboro Swarm. Um, do you know which team that's an affiliate? I'm completely blanking
Yeah,
who this
that
is.
that is the Charlotte Hornets affiliate.
Should have put 2 and 2 together there.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's playing 2 games with the or he's playing 2 games with the Delaware Bluecoats, 1 tonight at 7 o'clock, and then 1 on Saturday at 6 o'clock. Against the Greensboro Swarm. I will be at the game on Saturday to see him in person and hopefully maybe catch up with him after, see how he's feeling, if he is available to speak. But other than that, I mean, I do think this is the best way to go. And you're kind of getting more shot attempts without the pressure and mental strain it comes with like going cold in the NBA. So moving on, the Sixers the past week since we last spoke to you, me and Paul did last episode. The Sixers went 2-1. They had a 10-point win over the Raptors. They lost to the Pistons and then had the 2-point edge of their teeth um, victory against the Celtics. So, why don't you take us through like what are your main points of emphasis from the past 3 games and what you are expecting out of this team moving forward?
Yeah, so it's been a really mixed bag. There's a lot of great stuff, there's some bad stuff. I'm not going to get back into it again, but the overlying theme that we did see through those 3 games was the third quarter just consistently being an issue. Again, that's something that they're going to have to get better in one way or another. But we already beat that horse. So let me talk about something different. I was in attendance for the first game you mentioned against the Toronto Raptors, and that was the only game in this stretch where they did have Joel Embiid, and it was arguably the best he looked all year. Um, he got a lot of paint touches, and some of it was just the way the Raptors were defending Maxey, defending Embiid, defending the team as a whole. But there was a lot that I was encouraged with from Joel. I thought he made good decisions. I thought like he was able to get into the paint, finish well. They did have Scotty Barnes on him. They were lacking Jakob Pertl, and they don't really have a center behind Jakob, or at least a traditional center. Colin Murray Boyles was the other guy that got some minutes on him. So obviously, like these guys aren't traditional centers. Yes, they're on the bigger side. But I thought Embiid did really well at taking advantage of those matchups. He shielded them well while operating in the post. It was a very encouraging performance from him. Now, obviously, he has a right knee thing, and it's apparently not an issue. we'll see what exactly happens with that in the days to come. The following game after that was the Pistons game, and that was a disappointing loss, I think. Even without Embiid, it felt like they should have won that game. They kept Cade Cunningham, who has been pretty amazing to start this year, in check for most of that game. I think Kelly Oubre said the wrong thing or two to him, and he kind of turned it on, and they eventually won that game. So, and also there's the back-to-back aspect. The Sixers have been playing a ton of back-to-backs. I believe it was 3 back-to-backs in a 9-day stretch, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
yeah.
So great work, NBA. But yeah, like it's tough to win that game. That's one they ultimately should have won, but they were in it, so it's hard to nitpick that. I did think the way Detroit defended Maxey in particular that game was kind of eyebrow raising. They obviously have a lot of length, a lot of athletic defenders, so Maxey wasn't that great. VJ Edgecombe also has been kind of struggling during this stretch. It's been unfavorable matchups for their guards. But moving on to the Celtics game that we just touched on earlier. And apart from the third quarter, like there was a lot to be encouraged by. In fact, the whole first half I thought was one of their better, more complete halves of basketball that they played thus far. Maxi kind of struggled in that game. I'm not going to nitpick him too much. He did, I believe, did not have any turnovers that game, didn't shoot too well, but he's been playing so many minutes, and obviously the usage is sky high that you're just occasionally going to get one of these games. He's human. But there is certainly like the Celtics game was one of those games that kind of reminded me of the most recent game the Eagles played, in the sense that it was just like one of those games where both teams were just beating the crap out of each other. It wasn't particularly like aesthetically pleasing game. It was one of those games that you just had to dig down deep and find some way to win, and they did do that. Kelly Oubre had a putback, which gave them the lead. Celtics had a final possession. Drummond got an important stop too. And those are the wins you really want to see. And even VJ Edgecombe, who didn't, who it was probably his worst game from a stats perspective. But even he did stuff that you want to see rookie guards doing, and it's really difficult for guards to make the NBA jump. But I was really encouraged by the defensive stuff he did. He had an excellent block on Jalen Brown. That was really awesome to see. And I believe he was 1 of 10 at one point when the Sixers were coming back. I didn't even talk about him yet. I need to talk about him, but Justin Edwards, um, hitting shots, getting them back in that game. But VJ was 1 of 10. The ball swung his way. He was open enough to let it fly. And it wasn't a swish, but it was a shot he made. And
Right.
that's what you want to see rookie guards doing. He didn't let his struggles get in the way of him hitting big shots, taking and making big shots. So
Yeah.
I was super encouraged by that. And on a last note for that game and kind of the stretch, I had to talk about Justin Edwards, who was phenomenal in that Celtics game. He was, I believe, 9 of 9 at one point. I believe he finished 9 for 10. He was the sole
Yeah,
reason they did
the
not
last
lose that
shot
game.
the last shot
Yeah.
was, his only miss. So,
Yeah, and listen, like you can't expect that every night from Justin Edwards. You can't expect that every night from any player. But this is someone who's really kind of struggled for a lot of this year. He wasn't that great in summer league, wasn't that great in training camp. Nick Nurse had some high praise for him after that game, essentially saying, "I love this dude. Even when he struggles, I'm not worried about him because of the work he puts in, the way he approaches the game." And that's some really high praise for an undrafted guy. Yes, he did get converted to a standard deal, but it was super encouraging to see Justin Edwards do that. We saw glimpses of it last year during the whole tanking stretch, but we know this guy can play. So hopefully that game is kind of the red carpet being rolled out to him being a consistent producer for this team because they're going to need him, especially if Paul George keeps missing time.
yeah, absolutely, and, you touched on, Andre Drummond. I feel like, he has played probably the best we've seen him play as a Sixer this past week. He is effectively cleaning the glass the best he can. I will say, obviously, he's not like the most athletic going to grab the ball above people, but if it's coming to him, he will get it, especially over a smaller contester. Also, his drop defense has been, much better than I would have ever expected. He's always been
Mhm.
good at it, but, like, this year, especially without Joel, you can kind of see it more often, and he's just mucking things up, whether it's, staying vertical or, trying to get a steal when a big isn't expecting it. I think even in the Cavs game last week, he did a good job off the rip of, like, slowing down their bigs and kind of making it a game later in the game. Um, and I feel like that has just continued through this week as well, setting screens and, really making people pay still. I mean, it's like I would not want to play the Sixers if I am scared of getting a screen set on me. You either have Andre Drummond, a Dembona, or Joel Embiid setting it. Ouch. Anyways, on a scale of 1 to 10, how worried are you about Joel Embiid's right knee?
Emphasis on right knee, not left knee. The knee he had the procedure on this past offseason. It's I can't sit here and definitively say one way or another. Sixers have described this situation as fluid, and I hate using kind of PR wording for that, but it at the end of the day, it is. I will say it is encouraging to see he got an MRI done on it. There's no structural damage. It seems like they didn't find anything too irregular. Obviously, if you do an MRI on any athlete's knee, there's going to be some spots where you're like, oh, that doesn't look that great. So on and so forth. But they clearly felt good enough that it doesn't seem like it's a big issue. They listed him as day to day, so it's just gonna be one of those things where, in the coming days, we'll see. The injury report comes out in about an hour from the time of this recording, so we'll get a better idea. Nurse and his availability, I believe, essentially called him a game time decision. So if he's listed as questionable or probable, obviously that lines up. Becomes a bit more concerning if they do rule him out that far in advance of they play the Pistons again. This Pistons game coming up on Friday. So for now, my concern level is pretty low. Scale 1 to 10, 10 being like full blown panic, screaming, the house is on fire. I'd say three. Three. It's certainly something where you don't want to see that. Uh, don't want to see any injury, but particularly a knee injury when it comes to Joel. Uh, Thankfully, it is not on the bad knee, or I guess the less bad knee.
We're running out of
So
knees quickly.
yeah, yeah. So so for now, I'd say I'm not super worried. Obviously, that could change if they roll them out a full day in advance of the Pistons game. We'll see. Like Joel said in training camp, it's just gonna be a day by day thing, unfortunately.
All right. So, one last thing we'll touch on. You did put out a little newser on libertyballers.com about the City Edition jerseys. Emphasis on City Edition. These are different than the throwback jerseys. They are not replacing the throwback jerseys. What do you think of them 1 through 10 on the City jerseys? Because I know you got to go soon, but I wanted to hear your thoughts on it.
You can get me in trouble with this question, dude. So the city jerseys, for those who haven't seen them, haven't seen my post, haven't seen the Sixers kind of official unveiling. They are the 2019-2020 City Edition uniforms from the COVID year, the year without Horford, Josh Richardson, that team. Um, Except those were cream with kind of a blue lettering on them. These are different in the sense that is a navy blue base with kind of cream lettering. Oh yeah, there you go. Perfect. Um, so it's essentially the 2019-2020 jersey, just with a different color, kind of what we saw with the Spectrum uniforms going from a navy blue to a white. So it's a recolor. In terms of the jersey itself, just in a vacuum, it's a fine jersey. I actually like these jerseys. I thought they did
Yeah,
pretty well on them. The Philadelphia, it's a lot of letters. Um,
a lot, yeah.
that's probably the biggest part where it's iffy, but the fact that the numbers match the letter fonts, that's something they really didn't do much of until that point. And these were the first ones where it all flowed together well.
Yeah,
So I do think like it's a recolor of a good jersey from a cursed year. So in that sense, it's fine. It's a fine alternative. I do not like, the fact that they're rehashing several uniforms from a I mean, putting it bluntly, a failed marketing campaign from the not this year's black jerseys, but the Boathouse Row uniforms. Like, we're getting jerseys from that era, and it's 2025, and a lot of people know that that marketing crew is no longer with the team, so I'm pretty tired of it. I think it's a safe jersey. I think it's a fine jersey. It just kind of strikes me as somewhat lazy. And again, I'm really nitpicking here because they're only wearing these jerseys for 3 or 4 games this year, and that's another aspect of it. And that's probably less of a Sixers centric type of thing, and more like an NBA problem in the sense that there's just too many jerseys. They're being released every other year or every year,
yeah.
in terms of the city edition. So it's a fine jersey for 3 or 4 games. Like it'll just be like, oh, cool, they're wearing those. But it's one of those I think after this season, like we'll probably never think or talk about it again. So
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much on board with you there too. I think for me, jersey from the one jersey from that era, I mean, it might have been a little bit after. I mean, I have one. That's why I'm still looking up. It's the Reading Terminal one where it's like, I don't know, it
oh,
says
okay.
"City of Brotherly Love," and then it has like the Reading Terminal
Hmm.
kind of design on it and aesthetic. It's the one that Joel Embiid scored 70 points in. So I have that one. I really like that one. I think probably the best one from that. I think it probably ended that sort of era, and now we're in like this redoing these jerseys. I'm with you. I don't think we need to be doing the jerseys every year, especially if we're now doing a throwback around the league. It's a lot. I do get like the scarcity of it. It makes these jerseys kind of rare. So if you like one, it can kind of like, I don't know, increase the value of it in your head, whatever it may be. Um, that will do it for us and this week's edition of Liberty Ballers Weekly. Make sure to follow all of Harrison's work on libertyballers.com and make sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube and follow us on social media. I will talk to you guys later. Thank you, Harrison.
Thanks for having me on, dude. This was fun. It's always fun talking Sixers with you. And I appreciate the invite. So thank you.